2020 will be the first year that we went 100% sparkling for the first time, and there was a little bit of COVID associated with that, but it was also, we recognised that the opportunity was a great opportunity for the business, even in a really difficult time.
Sparkling is a style that we love making. It's not a style that many small family businesses go for good reason. It's highly technical. There's a lot of capital involved in the extra machinery, laying down the wines to give them the age that they really need to really show the quality potential. So I guess it was a very long-term strategy, but we love making wines.
In pride of place on a freezing hill in Pipers River for almost 40 years, the Delamere vineyard is receiving a new lease on life with a resolute focus on sparkling wines.
What we really loved about Delamere is it had a real distinctiveness to it. It's got really beautiful sort of red, rich soils, so it's quite a vigorous site, but it's also only about 5 kilometres from the coast. It's really, you can see the beach basically from the top of the hill. It's just got a lovely distinctivense to it.
It was also that it felt like somebody's home. We'd both been working in wineries and vineyards in the area, but this was also had a really, really lovely grounds and a beautiful property, much like we're in today. It was just that it was something that felt homely about it. With 12 years of vintages now at Delamere, this will be our 13th vintage, or no, 14th vintage. It's like, this has become, it's not a recipe, but we know that we're trialing things, but I think it's also that we realise that, yes, it's an intensive period of time and we've got to get things done, but what we're trying to do is put the pieces together so that, later in the year when we get to assemblage, that we've got those components there ready to go. And so it's going through those processes and the step-by-step stuff that Fran draws up before vintage, but then putting that into action. And let's just say sometimes it's just a lot of grunt work in a young facility like this. So, yeah.
It's really just making sure that we've got the capacity, that the right things have been ordered. That's really it. And that there's a plan in place of how we're going to get from getting the fruit in the door to the wines that we want to make, so that people aren't thinking on their feet in the middle of vintage. They've got a very clear outline of what to do. So that's sort of the role I take on. And then Shane, go for it. Tell me, what do you do, Shane?
I try and get away with it.
What did you do this week?
So this has been a really interesting balance of work and life for us, in that we have we've been both different aspects to it. So I feel like Fran is very focused and orientated on making sure that things are being done in a timely fashion and to budget. And I'm the sort of the dreamer and the go and do everything. But the roles and the way that they've really evolved is that mainly I'm focusing on vineyard and big picture production. So obviously the new developments of the winery, things like that. But I'm really overseeing the vineyard crew, and helping make sure that, the winery is ready for Fran and the wine-making team to come in and go crazy over vintage.
Yeah. Shane just fixes things, puts stuff together when we need something and, perhaps it hasn't been organised. And, the big picture stuff, I very much rely on Shane. And most importantly, though, in terms of what Shane does, he does all the vineyard oversight and stuff. So in a lot of ways, that's really the essential foundation to everything we do, because at the end of the day, that fruit quality, if we don't have that, none of the other planning matters. So, yeah, it's true.
You've recorded that, right?
In 2017, we travelled to Champagne with our entire family for 4 weeks. Mostly to go and visit and talk with the grower producers in the region. It was an amazing opportunity, and we learnt a huge amount from them.
For us, we felt that sort of the relationship that you could see with the grower producers there, and that way that you could start to see individual vineyard expression coming through in wines, and tasting cuvées that we'd never really been exposed to in Australia. And just the sheer number and diversity of those styles of wine, it made us feel really excited about the opportunities that as winemakers we could bring to, I guess, a style of wine in Australia.
That trip was formative in our, I suppose not really in our view of what we could do with the sparkling wines, but really gave us the confidence to feel that what we were thinking about and what we'd been doing was on the right track. With a lot of sparkling and champagne, there isn't often a lot of emphasis on the land and representing the vineyard the way there is with Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which is where our sort of main winemaking experience had come from. And as a small family, 100% estate grown and made business, we really wanted to carry that philosophy across to our sparkling wines. So our wines have always been really focused on the vineyard characteristics. And, for us, it also adds on that extra element that the French call terroir, which in Australia and a lot of places, I guess, we tend to think of it more as just the soil and the place. But really what it's about, and I guess this is one of the things we really drew from that trip to Champagne, was that it's about more than that. It's about the culture of the people as well. It's about the culture of the business, the situation that you're making wine in. And that's really critical to us because we're a small family business. That comes with restrictions and challenges every single day. And that does inform and flow through to the wines we make. So the wines really speak of place and people and culture really to the fullest extent that they could. And we love that about the sparkling range.
Yeah.
So I look back at the first wines that Shane made, because I wasn't involved, 2008. And looking back at the very beginning of our journey, I love that late disgorged wine. I think it's beautiful quality. And Shane and I know that in between times, we've made so many improvements to what we can do. So I think about the potential of the 2021 late disgorged, and that's probably the thing that excites me the most.
In recent years, it's that increase in the diversity of styles that we're starting to see. There's been another influx of young producers, and I think we've all sort of come up in what hasn't been the easiest period of time in wine in Australia. Hasn't been the 80s and the 90s. So, you've had to still hit certain quality parameters. It's not just a matter of getting bubbles in a bottle. You still have to have a story behind it, and you still have to have a reason for doing it. But the diversity of producers that we've got now and the diversity of styles and the way the sub-regions are really starting to express themselves is probably the biggest thing for me.
We're still so small, I just think it's kind of still very much the beginning.